In many cases, we have to understand that sometimes some people will pray near the time of death. Jacob prayed over in the last few chapters of Genesis when he knew that it was time for the Lord to take him home. He recognized all 12 of the children that he had. My mother prayed before she left this earth. And many moms and dads have probably looked back and took a reflect on their families as they knew that they were departing and moving on to be with our Lord. But here is David saying something really unique out of the 22nd chapter here in 2 Samuel. And he says in the 17th verse in the NIV, he says, he reached down from on high and he took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from my foes, his enemies, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my disaster, but the Lord was my support. Oh, he brought me out into a spacious place, and he rescued me because he delighted in me. The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands, he has rewarded me. David did many things, but David knew one thing, that he was willing to comply to what God wanted out of him. Yes, he sinned. Yes, he made mistakes. But he understood God, and he understood that God would have to reprimand him when he made those errors or made those mistakes. He understood God because God had a relationship with him. And God proved to David that he would never leave him alone, even though that he had to spank him for a few things. I guess the old saying, they said sometimes you got to take the spanking and keep moving. So here it is in the 17th verse, and he says that word and a thought in the title of the sermon, the Lord reached down. He reached down on high and he took hold of me. And that's what you want us to do today, is he want him to keep on reaching down and keeping hold on us, to keeping us in the place where we need to be, to keep us foundated and structured and held to accountability, knowing that he is always there for us because he is looking down on us. And then the good news of it is he's all around us as he looks down. This doesn't mean that he's at a distance, but it means that God has his eyes on us. And he's able to reach down in a time of need. He's able to make us feel as if we are in a good place with him. He's willing to make himself available in a time of our needs. Well, he says, and he took hold of me, he drew me out of deep waters. I might have been drowning in life. I might have been in trouble. I may not have been doing the things the way I should, or maybe I'm looking at things all twisted up, or else I might be in a situation where the job doesn't have stability, or I might be in a situation where the finances may not be in the right place. These are the deep waters in life, but yet Jesus can pull us out. Because David says down in the 18th verse, he says that he rescued me from my powerful enemy. When I see that passage, when I say he rescued from my powerful enemy, that don't mean just that folks don't like you. or have something against you, but it might be the governmental system that might be an enemy to us on its illness and on its wickedness and on its selfishness and on its ignorance. Because we got some things built in a system that is not right before God. And that's why David understood that there were some things that he had to get right within his own kingdom. And then he knew that he had enemies all around him, and he could tell you the story because he had problems with Saul and all these other folks that was against him on being a king. But then he had a whole lot for him that he was a king. And then he says that now from, even in the midst from my enemy, from my foes who were too strong for me, he took them away. In other words, it looked like it might have been some way of impossibility. It may have been that they would not have the ability to defend themselves from those who had been determined to be much stronger than he was. But David is assuring us they may be bigger, they may be stronger, they may have power, they may have all these things. And they may turn themselves against me and make me feel as I'm too frail to live. But then in the 19th verse clears it up real good. He says, they confronted me in the day of my disaster when things were falling apart. When they caught me in a vulnerable situation when I couldn't get out of it and it seemed like everything was all blocked off and barricaded, where I couldn't see which way to go, when our life seemed like it was going down and headed in the wrong direction and I could not see the future, I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel. But in the midst of that crisis, the Lord was my support. David has let us know that there's nothing too big for him. There's nothing too big for God to handle. Even when things look discouraging, even when things look bad, even when things look out of control, God's got a way of getting things straightened out. He had to straighten out some things in his nation. He had to straighten it out to get a little more peace to the folks and feel a little bit more uplifted, and he did it. He had to do these things in order to give a comfort to those that are suffering and going through some changes in life. David didn't have it all perfect. It wasn't like a glorious day every day. But he knew one thing: when things went down and things went bad, and possibly when the economy and all these things was headed in the wrong direction in his days, there's a reach that can come from on high to pull him back up. Look at this. We went down in 2008, but then in the next 8 years, we got pulled up. And then the next few years, things kind of leveled off and stayed until the pandemic. We went down in 1980. We went down in 92. And then all of a sudden things got pulled up and brought us to the digital divide. What am I saying then? Sometimes life is a roller coaster, sometimes inflation, recession, depression, but yet Jesus is there to get us through all the perilous times. And David understood this. I bet David would right now, if he would stand before us, he would let us know that, hey, this just ain't nothing but another obstacle. But the good news of it is we're built to get over the obstacles of life when we are in Jesus. So that's why he goes over in the 20th verse and he says that he brought me out into a spacious place. You see, God is letting us know on what this very statement that David is saying, that he took me in a place of comfort. He took me in a place that's reasonable. He took me in a place that I would not feel so overwhelmed. He took me in a place to where I would not allow things to really mentally disrupt me and mess me up inside and take away my hope. He put me in a place that I can still survive even in the midst of all this chaos that's going around me. He put me in a place. And then when he put me in a place, then he began to work his way and he rescued me because he delighted in me. That's why I say to all the churches and all the denominations that get caught up in all these things and get all mixed up in politics and all these things, that they must get back in place with the Lord and let the Lord do the rescuing. What you do is preach the good news and preach the good news so the sick and the poor and the downtrodden may get the message that they can have hope and live in peace. Lord have mercy. He rescued me because he had the light. I want to be at that place. I want to be right there, knowing that I want to please God in such a way is that when things don't look right, I know that he will give me space and then he will reach down and pull me out of that stuff. Glory be to God. And then finally it says in the 21st verse, when he wraps this up, because now he understands being holistically with God and knowing what God can do for him and knowing that God will take care of him and knowing that God will get him through his trials and his opposition and all the chaos that he had to deal with as a king. And then he's letting us know that all the chaos that we got to deal with society today, there is a way out when you have it with Jesus. And so therefore he says, and he can proudly say that the Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness. That's why folks got to watch out, because they got to be right. They got to be fair. They can't be judgmental. They got to be fair. They got to know how to forgive. They got to accept forgiveness. They got to know how to get right back in the right place, because we will, and those that hold things against other folks will take an accountability when it comes to them standing before God. So therefore, it must be a life. It cannot be no biasisms. It can't be no sexism. It can't be racism. It can't be any of these things, because accountability will be required before God. And so that's why David said, according to the what? The cleanness of my hands, he has rewarded me. Glory be. That is letting us know that God is hearing, God is seeing, God is not overlooking us. God is seeing on how we conduct our lives. But the good news of it is, when we keep walking in that way, as such as we'll be walking in that way on Thursday, trying to make another path and another plate, God is saying that I'm willing to reward you because of your deeds and because of your act and because of your concern and because of your love. I will do some blessing in the midst of all of this. And that's why I can be assured that there's hope. There's hope. And we must not give up, but we must keep going on, because God is able to reach down and give us what we need, to keep our eyes open, to give us what we need. My hope is that he will reach down and see some of these families come back in this church. My hope that it is that he will reach down and bring something and regenerate some things in here. Because I know that he can, and I know that he's able. And I know that we must stand firm and strong as people of God in order that his kingdom make a change in this world. Because he already told us that he's able to reach down and help make the difference. And as we depart and as we stand and sing that long song, the last song, he reached down and saw his son. And his son Jesus had done what he is supposed to do. He reached down and said, now you can come on home, son. But nevertheless, that Jesus had to go reach down and take himself down into the midst of hells, and then in the midst of hell, and then let his life be lost. He laid down his life in order that the Father sooner or later will be able to reach down and pull him back up and take him from off the cross and put him in the tomb and then raise up in the third day. Glory be to God. God is reaching down for us today to give us the life that we need to have. That's what the resurrection is all about. God reaching down and giving us life. For this is the call for the day. God is reaching out and God is reaching down. Let us stand.
Verse 1, 4, and 5.